Hey everybody, thanks for watching my video. I want to thank you for renting the trailer or possibly renting the trailer so you can see for this setup video how easy it's going to be. My original plan was to walk through and talk about it at the same time, but we're at Cedar Hill State Park outside of Grand Prairie and it's way louder and windier than I had planned. So did the video, and this is going to be sort of my voiceover for it. Getting right into it. Getting to the park, this site was really small and short. I think it was 24 feet long, so that makes it perfect for this camper. I was able to pick up the spot 3 days before I came down here. Yeah, so right now it's a struggle to get campsites, and but I was able to get this one because most people can't get their camper in. But when you back in, what I'd like to do before I actually back into the site, I kind of look and see which way it's probably going to lean. It's critical to get this side-to-side level right first because you have to move the trailer to get this level. I have really cool blocks that are wedges, so you drive up on them to get level, and then I also have put a level on the frame right behind the hitch so that you can get out and see where you are really quick. What I did for this site was I backed in where I wanted it and then looked at the level and then pulled up, put my wedge in, and then I backed up to my original spot that I wanted and kept backing until I could get it perfectly level, judging by the frame level. It's not a big level, but it works really well. I haven't had any issues with it thus far. Once you get that side-to-side level, that's really all it takes. And now the next most important thing out of everything is to chock the wheels. Chock both sides. The wedge, there's another little piece that you stick in there and that's anchored, but I go ahead and wedge the second or the other side too. Especially in this side, it's a pretty good drop off the back. So once you get those chocks, next thing to do is to unhitch, because the only way to level front and back is with the tongue jack. So when I go to unhook, of course unhook the ball latch, and then I actually leave it chained up just as an extra safety precaution because I can get it up off the ball with the chain still attached. That's just in case, worst case scenario, I forgot to chock, the chains will catch it, because there's no stopping this thing if it starts to go. So when I'm putting the blocks down, if I know it's a pretty level site, I don't want to have to extend the tongue jack all the way up to get it off my truck. So what I like to do is use blocks underneath it so I don't have to extend it as far. Now this site, I would have gotten in trouble if I would have used as many blocks as I normally do, because I had to lower it way down just to get it level because it dips so much in the back. So be cognizant of that. If the site slopes backwards a lot, you might not need to use any blocks. So gauge your blocks. You unchain and then unhook your 7-pin connector, pull up out of the way, and that's when you would level. And you can use that level, the little T level that I have on the frame worked great for that as well. So you should be level from that point. After that, you would use the stabilizers. I provided a drill with the socket on it so that you can just deploy the stabilizers really quick. I use the term stabilizer, not jack, because you're not jacking up this trailer. You're only going down to their firm. And that's all it really needs. It just shores it up to where it doesn't shake as much. All right, so that's all for the leveling and stabilizing. Then we can start getting into the creature comforts. Next, I connect the shore power. I have the cord on the driver's side front compartment as well as the surge protector. So what I do is normally just work from that compartment to the plug-in because it's all right there. So you just do a quick, not even a quarter turn of the plug to get it in, and then you twist the collar on there to secure it. And then you work back to the connection on the park, and there's going to be a 30 amp plug and usually a 110. This one was a 30 amp breaker and a 20 amp breaker. Be careful of wasps in these boxes. They're notorious. This one had an old nest. Last week I had one with another nest. it's almost guaranteed that there's going to be a wasp nest in there. So turn the 30 amp breaker on, plug in the surge protector first without the actual shoreline in, and it's going to have a series of lights on it. And this one, you can see it has 2 green lights. That means we're good to go. If it had any other variation, just be careful. You might have to contact the park if there's a ground fault or reverse polarity or something, because you don't want to damage the trailer. This surge protector is critical in protecting the trailer and not voiding warranty or insurance claim or anything. After that, you connect in and you're good to go. On to the next creature comfort. For water, there's a bin labeled clean water. There's another bin for non-potable water. That's another water hose that I use for washing out the sewer and everything like that. Do not get those mixed up. So anyway, clean water box has everything you need to connect. The filter and the elbow with the little flex piece all go on the trailer. Elbow onto the trailer, and then the filter after that. And then connect the hose to that. You have to unroll the hose, go back to the spigot, and I always flush it. That's the firefighter in me. Make sure I've got good clean water coming out of it. And then connect the Y and then the pressure regulator onto that, and then turn it on. You can use that other Y. I have a little short piece of hose, or I have the other clean non-potable 50-foot piece of hose if you need to wash out other stuff. You might have some air in the line, so it's gonna spit and sputter a little bit. It has to fill the hot water heater. Don't be alarmed. I sometimes use the outdoor shower to blow that air out of the line so it's not spitting at me in the kitchen. All right, so that pretty much sums up the outside. There is sewer as well. This site that I was in did not have sewer, so I'm going to demonstrate later in the video how to dump the tanks at a site, and also it's the same as if you were setting up at a campsite. Then we go inside, and we've got the control panel right there when you walk in. Go ahead and flip the water heater electric on in case you need to wash up pretty quick. It's going to take a few minutes to heat up. And then you open the slide. You go to extend. You might have to click it once and then click it again. Not always, just depends. And it's going to make a whining noise, some creaking and popping. That's all part of it. Just make sure you checked on the outside that there aren't any trees or obstructions, because this doesn't have a safety mechanism. It's going to keep going. Also on the inside, I like to tuck the trash can over to the side or something like that. So just make sure there's nothing impeding it. And the same goes, even more importantly, coming back in. Make sure there's nothing in the floor blocking it or anything like that. But then yeah, you're pretty much set up and ready. So when you come to pick up the trailer, I will have already had it plugged in, and so that the fridge can be cool, and I've gone over a quick checklist and everything. One thing that's important, the fridge, if you're gonna put stuff in it, it's a 12 volt or 120 fridge. It doesn't have propane, which is actually really good. What I do is the instructions, it stays on 0 in storage, but if you're gonna fire it up, turn it all the way to 7 for a couple hours, and it cools very quickly. And then adjust it to probably a 5 once you get to the camp. It'll run off the battery power, and there's a battery switch up front that it's on, off, and then there's another spot where you can just take the cap with you. Turn it to green, and then if you do turn it off, only click it once. Don't click it twice, because if you lose that cap, I'm gonna have to buy another one. Leave it on, and make sure the inverter is off. The inverter is behind the shoe rack. As soon as you walk in on the right, the inverter drains the battery very quickly, and you don't need it for the fridge. Little tip for the fridge, if you're gonna be putting in a lot of a lot of room temp things, get some ice packs, some just freezer packs, and stuff in there too to help chill the food to where it doesn't pull the temp down too much. For the propane, if you're going to use the stove inside, that's about the only time you're going to need to use propane, is if you're cooking with the stove inside or the griddle on the outside. It has a system to balance the tanks, but if you run out of both of them at the same time, you're screwed. So what I do is only use one at a time. And so then if you do run out in the middle of a campsite, in a camp, you can switch to the other one and then just let me know. that you ran out of one so that I can get it filled. On the AC, I've been practicing with it to see where the sweet spot is. It actually did freeze up on me yesterday, just a touch, and it was not hot outside, 85 and humid. It did freeze up, and that's because I had it cranked all the way cold and it didn't shut off, and it locked up in 5-6 hours. It thawed out very quickly, but just be aware it needs to be cycling on and off to where it doesn't freeze up. For the toilet, always keep a little bit of water in there. That keeps smells and everything from coming up. We only have a 30-gallon black, 30-gallon gray, and 30-gallon fresh if you are doing dry camping or boondocking. So just be aware, if you've never camped before, don't run the sink water or shower like you would at home if you don't have sewer at your campsite. If you are connected at a campground, what I do is still leave the tanks closed and then pull them and dump them if I'm going to be there a long time. If you just leave them open, especially on the black tank, you could start to have solids fill up in the tank, and you need the liquids in there to help flush that out. Most campers have a no number 2 rule in the camper, but I kind of have a, that's for business hours and after dark or emergencies. Sometimes you got to use the bathroom. I'm not going to walk down to the bathrooms in the middle of the night. I digress. Leave the tanks closed when you're at a campsite and just dump them before you leave, or if you need to, dump black and then gray. You want to use the gray water to flush out the black water. What I do if I'm going to dump the black water and I'm on city water and I haven't filled up the tank yet, I'll just run the toilet for a little bit to where I can kind of dilute what's in there. It makes me feel a little better. I mean, you're going to dump it all anyway. All right, for the grand finale. So I've got hose here, and then I also have an extra 10 feet of hose and a tube up front. Got gloves. I have this angled, and I've got some elbows. It's probably a good thing to just put these gloves on first before you touch any of it. All right, and then the sewer is nothing special. It's just a hole in the ground. So for ease, I'll do a clear elbow. This might be under pressure sometimes, so just be careful. This tube has 2 different fittings. It has the knobs and then it has the latches. So you can just put it like this, stick it off in the hole. And then on this one, both of them are capped. And then it might have some dribbles, it's inevitable. All right, so remember, black first. So you got an elbow. Clear elbow is going to show it when it's draining. If you have to, if you pulled up too close like me, you can go ahead and deploy this slope piece to help. Then there's a spigot here at the dump that you can use hose. I've got a really short hose that I can use, so I don't have to deploy 50 feet. Black tank fills empty, then gray tank. It's really, this isn't as bad as what everybody says it is or what you would think. It's not Christmas Vacation, Uncle Eddie dumping it in a sewer drain. So we'll let that finish draining. Now you can elect for an additional add-on. You can just drive right past this and let me do it. Of course, it's a little extra fee, so that's up to you. I don't mind doing it. All right. So before you take it off, remember to close them. Make sure they're both closed before you disconnect, and then walk out the tube. Do that a couple times just to be safe. Okay. Okay. Then I like to give that a rinse just because I'm gonna have to open it eventually anyway. And then maybe the spray nozzle isn't the best. All right, and I'll just work backwards. I'm gonna cap this one. And these just push in. All right, and I give this one little all right. Then I just try to collapse this down before I put the cap on. Make it as small as possible.